Hello, it's Marek. Welcome to MDrives. Today I decided to make a video about the fuel consumption of the M2 with N55 engine. I know it's a funny topic and many of you will say, well, if you're talking about consumption, you shouldn't be in M2 because it's a fun car. And partially I do agree. It's a fun car, and when you're having fun, miles per gallon doesn't matter. However, many of you will also wonder how this car is doing in a daily usage, because not everyone has money to have more than one car. For some like me, this is the only car I'm using, and therefore I also do care how many mpg I'm going to get out of this car when I'm using it as a daily. So I'm in a lucky position that I work majority of days from home. So for me, even if I have to commute 2 days a week to my work, which is 50 miles both ways, it's not a big problem. However, if you would have to commute 5 days a week and do 250 miles every week, that might become a problem, and that might then become a bigger consideration when you actually choosing your car. So today, as I said, I'm going to drive normally as I always do. I'm going to cover about 24 miles during my journey. My journey starts with a short commute out of town. Then I will go through the villages and some B roads, which should not put too much stress on the engine and therefore on the fuel consumption. And then I will end it up for the last 3 miles in very heavy traffic in a city, which will definitely drop the figures. But enough talking, let's see how the car is doing now. Oh, I think rather than smearing it all over my windscreen, I'm just gonna let it dry and I'm going to take care of it later on. So after doing about 2 miles, the consumption is 24 miles per gallon. And as you can see, I'm mostly sitting in about 15 to 2000 RPMs. I'm staying in comfort. There's no point to go into sport. I'm going to turn on the steering wheel so you can actually see the temperature of the oil as well, which currently is 41 Celsius degrees. So it takes a while for N55 M2 to actually warm up. I think it takes about 10 miles actually to get to the 90 degrees, but I'm going to report that in a moment. So my journey starts with an uphill section, which definitely will take its toll on the MPG, which currently started dropping, only slightly though, 23.8 at the moment. So N55, 365 brake horsepower, and 465 Newton-meters with 500 on overboost. That's the top line information on this engine. My car is equipped in a manual gearbox, so obviously that will negatively impact my MPG figure as well, as the automatic cars with 7-speed DCT, they have in fact one extra gear, which basically ensures a good economy, especially on a motorway. So normally you would get probably about 10 to 15% better result with automatic compared to 6-speed manual. So this is a typical situation when I'm commuting to work. I'm doing about 50 miles per hour now, so the car sits at about 1900 RPMs in a 6th gear, and the MPG is actually rising. We're almost at 26, and luckily for us, I'm going to be driving downhill from here for quite a while. So as I said, we're going downhill now and the consumption is decreasing. And here we go, we've got a first little jump to this roundabout, so we're going to lose some MPG here, but hey ho, it's a normal daily situation. It's also worth mentioning that this car is equipped in a start-stop system, which I usually turn off. I don't like this car to turn off and on all the time in the traffic. However, I might leave this system on during one section of this journey where I'm going through one of the towns and there are main traffic lights in the middle of town which can stop me for about 2 minutes. So if that's the case, I might just turn it on then, because there's no point to keep engine running for 2 minutes. But when I'm in the traffic, start-stop traffic, moving every so often, I turn it off because it's just annoying. So my car is almost standard, almost because as some of the regular viewers know, I installed SportCat a couple of weeks ago. So it's a 200 cell VRSF SportCat. I don't think it will change anything. It's not a Decat. It might add a couple of horsepower, but the car is in tune, it's in stock form, therefore I'm not expecting it to make any effect on our today's test. So as you can see, cruising gently at 52 miles per hour, we're getting towards 29 mpg now. And as this is a manual and we're going downhill, I'm just gonna let it cruise in neutral. That's what I do sometimes on my daily commute when I don't really need any power. There's no one behind me. I have massive gap at the front of the car. I know the road. I know there's no point of pushing the car because I'm gonna have to brake soon. I'm just letting car coast and basically save a bit on fuel. Also, where I know I'm going to have to slow down, I leave the car in gear and let the engine slow it down, because that is the best way to do it. Not only you saving your brakes, but also when you leave car in gear and you're braking with the engine, the car actually doesn't use any fuel. It shuts down the fuel supply and you literally traveling for free for that brief moment. And we are now at 32 miles to the gallon, which is great. On my daily commute, I usually keep the car at the low revs. It has plenty of torque. Obviously, you can't put too much stress on it. You need to know what to do. If you keep your car in the low revs and you start accelerating, you are risking the knock in the engine basically, because the fuel, because of the pressure, the fuel might explode faster than it should, causing a knock, which is very unhealthy for your engine. So if you're accelerating only slightly, you know, like very gently, you can easily be in 1500 RPMs and the car will happily take it because it doesn't require a lot of power to push the car forward. If I would wish to accelerate fast now, you really need to remember to, you know, reduce your gear so you're at least in 2,000, 2,500 RPMs. I mean, obviously with today's turbo engines, you don't really have to be that high in the rev range to accelerate, but it is healthier for the engine to be, I would say, above 2,000 RPMs when you start accelerating quicker. And again, we are approaching a very long downward section, so I'm letting car coast in neutral, and the car is now at 90 Celsius degrees, so it took 9 miles to get there, and it's 7 degrees outside today. So yes, I would say N55 in M2 takes ages to warm up. So I just had to stop to let a couple of cars go on the junctions. Obviously this having a negative impact on the MPG, but again, this is the real test, so I'm not trying to be more economical than usually. So now this is a bit faster section outside of any towns, so I can do 60 miles per hour here. The car is currently at 34.4 mpg, and the mpg goes up to 35.3. So 30 miles per hour, and I'm currently in the 5th gear, and we are approaching traffic, which is quite unusual in this section, and I know why. I can see that they're collecting bins today, so unfortunately this will have negative impact on our mpg, which currently is at 35.8. This is really unfortunate because this is the first time ever I'm stuck here behind waste collection truck, and unfortunately we are going to be stopped on the first long traffic lights, and that's why I just turned on the start stop function, because there's no point to run the engine for a minute or two. Coincidentally, my car decided that the start stop is going to be disabled for a moment, and that's probably because the car wasn't used for almost a week, therefore the battery might need a bit of a recharge. So yes, the car decided he will not use start stop function at this point, which again is against what we are trying to achieve here. Or is it? Well, no, it isn't. So our goal isn't to get the best MPG, our goal is to show you the real MPG, and therefore, you know, it's a real life situation. So we're now 13 miles and 25 minutes into our journey with 34.2 mpgs and going down with an average speed of 32.6 miles to the miles per hour. So you are joining me 31 minutes into our journey. We covered 16 miles and I'm currently sitting at 32.5 mpg, and as you can see we are now in heavier traffic, moving around 25 miles per hour. So this is the section which definitely takes toll on the mpg. 34 minutes in, still at 16 miles. However, we are approaching a long downhill section now, which will help our mpg, which currently is at 32 dead. You might ask yourself a question, why do I even make this video? And well, I think it's just to help people to make an informative decision when they choosing a car. There will be plenty of people over the next couple of years which will be considering jumping into M2, and they might want to know how the MPG will look like outside those fun miles, those special trips. So I hope this video will be helpful to some of you. It's also worth to mention that the car runs on SO 99 petrol. I always use 99, not because of the fact it's 99, but because SO99 is advertised as having a lot of additives, which helps to keep the engine clean, similarly to V-Power. That's why I'm always using one of those two fuels. So now we're approaching the last leg of my journey. We're getting into a city, and unfortunately the traffic will build up in the next minute or two. At the moment we're at 33.6 mpg, which is a decent figure. However, on some days I've seen here around 35, 36 mpg, so it's definitely far from best. And as I predicted, we are now stuck in a traffic jam, and we will be for another mile or so. It's a very heavy traffic. That last mile will probably take me a good 10 to 15 minutes, so this will have a massive hit on the MPG figure. So I'm going to stop the cameras for a moment now and catch up with you while we're getting towards the end of this section. So we are now just a couple of hundred yards away from where I work, and as you can see, I continue to sit in a very heavy traffic. We're 48 minutes in at 19 miles actually at the moment, so I think the journey is shorter than I originally thought. And we are currently at 31.8 mpg with an average speed of 25.2 miles per hour. So today's result will be pretty poor compared to my regular journeys, which usually end up with about 34-35 mpg, with my absolute best being almost at 40. That was during school holiday. At that particular time I had absolutely no traffic jams. I was flying through the green lights most of the time, and yes, it was my absolute best. But yes, I almost touched 40 mpg when I got to the gate of my office. So it can be done. It all depends where you live, what kind of traffic you're traveling in, and how many times you're stopped, etc. So today's test, I think, is showing you probably the harsh reality of how bad it can be when you're in a bad traffic as well, because 31.3 miles per gallon, which I'm ending this video with, is definitely one of the poorest MPGs I ever achieved. So hopefully you found this video helpful. Please remember, like and subscribe, and I invite you to comment on your MPGs in your M2s. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye. Do widzenia.